Hi, and welcome to my channel on ADHD and personality. Thank you for subscribing, and I particularly welcome your feedback and comments, and I will respond to them. I received a WhatsApp suggesting I first explain basics in a classroom manner, and I'm going to respond by saying that I've promised a different and unique approach, one that has not been written in other books. There is a plethora of books out there on ADHD, and you can also Google for basics today. My approach is different in that I will not focus on treating symptoms of ADHD. I will quote from Hallowell and Ratey again that ADHD is much more than a list of symptoms. It is a way of life. I am a clinical and educational psychologist, and my holistic approach is unique in that it is wider and talks in a wider context about what it means to be ADHD, the benefits as well as the pain, and in particular emotional baggage that comes with those coping with and living with ADHD. I wish to reach out to thousands of loving and concerned parents and partners who are lost and confused and are seeking guidance. This is not about bad parenting. We need to teach you this subject, and so I wish to present this unique therapeutic approach intended to help you understand the varied phenomenon known as ADHD with all its characteristics and teach you a new language with which you can help them identify their strengths and their weaknesses. They can understand, develop awareness, and explain themselves. Through this, they can gradually learn how to identify and control the expressions of their ADHD and channel themselves in a different, more positive direction. At the same time, I am addressing other family members, friends, teachers, and professionals who wish to enrich their knowledge and receive practical tools that will empower them to help themselves and others. I will address parents, but the same applies for partners and significant others. I am talking about adults too, all the time. The purpose is to lead the child or the adult to understand and explain himself and be understood. In my last video, I talked about the gap I personally experience every day between the what and the how. I know what I want to say. I have difficulty thinking about how I am going to say it. This basic difficulty in functioning leads to frustration, and the more intelligent the person, the greater the frustration. This frustration leads to a feeling of vulnerability, underperformance, emptiness, and a lack of fulfillment, and it derives from a combination of lack of control and helplessness. The pain shatters the parents, family, or partners, frustrates the child, and serves as a daily source of conflict between them. I also talked of the advantages, and I will continue to do so, as there is a flip side to every coin. And I ask you to remember that a disorder can only be defined as a disorder when it is disruptive. And just to recap, children and adults coping with ADHD tend to be insufficiently understood or misunderstood by their environment. An environment that does not understand tends to interpret, to criticize, to educate, to judge, to be angry, reject, and punish. We, ADHDers, pride our intuition and authenticity, and we are extremely sensitive. We find it difficult often to explain ourselves, and we can respond inappropriately when we feel misunderstood. Repeated misunderstandings are confusing, and they lead to difficulties with our self-image and can lead to a severe sense of loneliness, anxiety, and even depression. I am excited to teach you a new language that will enable you to better communicate on equal terms. A language that improves the relationship and makes the person feel bingo, he or she gets me and I am understood. Think of the child who says he doesn't like math, but he likes the teacher because the teacher gets him and therefore he works at maths. It is this rare feeling of being understood which enables the process of change and helps the child or adult relax, observe, learn, understand, explain, and defend himself. True mental health comes from understanding ourselves and being authentic and true to ourselves. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day that you cannot be false to any other man. Herman Wouk once wrote something I find particularly relevant. What one doesn't understand in ordinary mental health is that daily life is a show. You have to put on the right costume, to improvise the right speeches, to undertake the right actions, and all this is not automatic. It takes attention and concentration and work and an amazing degree of control. This is a difficult, complex subject, and it is discussed in depth in my book, Talking ADHD, originally written in Hebrew. The title in Hebrew is To Understand and Be Understood. We adults need to first understand in order to help the person coping with ADHD understand and be understood. The purpose is first to raise awareness of the specific issues and enable a conversation about their unique and subjective and emotional experience. Thus, they can learn about themselves from their parents and teachers, and it is this positive learning experience that improves a child's or adult's motivation to make a change in their behavior and in their life. The change that the child or adult generates on their own and with the help of the significant other can occur in all fields of life, in the family, at school, in the peer group, or at work. Another goal of this approach, which is essentially an emotional therapy that is administered by the parents, adults, or significant others, is also to improve functioning in several areas. Success in functioning leads to motivation to learn more. The gradual development of self-awareness, identity, and with it a healthy feeling of self-worth, together with the ability to communicate effectively, explain and defend ourselves, contributes to increasing growth, advancement, fulfillment, and authenticity. I wish to emphasize again and again that this is not about bad parenting or teaching. This is a complex neurological diagnosis that needs to be understood. Medication alone can be efficient, but is insufficient. Knowledgeable, informed professionals need to explain these complex scientific issues in simple terms to parents and responsible adults. The adult or environment in turn will teach the child or adult to understand himself and become his own expert. The professional or psychologist is not the therapist. This language needs to be practiced and spoken every day. And like all languages, everyone will learn at his own pace. The therapist or professional accompanies and teaches the adults concerned about ADHD. He is committed and he believes in the incredible power of acceptance in all its glory and hardships. This is the essence of Eastern approaches, which champion acceptance, observation, contemplation, understanding, and learning. Deep, holistic observation, derived by seeing the world of the child or adult as a whole, is required in order to reach and touch the personality, the soul. This contrasts very often with Western approaches, which seek to diagnose and isolate undesirable phenomena and eliminate them, either by overcoming or suppressing them. Reliance on medication alone can sometimes create an illusion of resolution. People coping with ADHD know that this experience is the base or foundation of who they are and will accompany them throughout their lives, and therefore we need to talk to them about this, to integrate this into every therapy or every discussion we have with people with ADHD. We need to see the child or adult as a whole, and always remember that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. ADD has become so fashionable today that it is treated sometimes even simultaneously by so many different professionals. Just think of it. Neurologists, psychiatrists, educational, developmental, neuro, rehab, occupational, and clinical psychologists. Social workers, teachers, remedial, special ed, adaptive teachers, coaches, counselors, occupational therapists, speech therapists, emotional therapists, not to mention a whole string of new age art and alternative therapists. Each of these professionals offers treatment of ADHD, but all too often only to a single, narrow aspect of the phenomena. They therefore cannot see the child as a whole. The parents are bewildered and lack guidance in how to integrate these various treatments, and the child and the adult feel that the therapist is only treating part of himself. So how can he see himself as a whole? Yes, this oratorical display is the reason I am here today, to combine my expertise in educational and clinical psychology, and I have also specialized to do this in neurodevelopmental psychology. Even within psychology, we need to be holistic. The educational psychologist very often does not understand personality. The clinical psychologist does not understand ADHD in depth. And therefore, we need well-informed, holistic therapists to accompany, guide, and teach the parent the focused language addressing the varied specific issues. I insist that it is the parent or adult who sees the child or adult daily will support and teach the child or adult about him or herself until he or she is aware, becomes his own expert, and can take responsibility for himself. Mother Teresa said to understand is to stand under. This is true empathy. If you want to experience and understand the experience of another person, you must put yourself in their place. Professor Dov Alexandrovich, children love their parents because they learn from them, but children learn from their parents because they love them. We need to learn in order to teach them and develop a deep connection based on mutual love. We need to put ourselves in their place. As informed professionals, parents, and responsible adults, we need to first understand, accept, observe, raise awareness, and talk to them about themselves. We need to understand in order to help them be understood. Thank you.